Good Wednesday morning, and thank you for joining us here on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Jason Hackett. Let's get right to your headlines. Our top story this morning, you got a couple of hours to get out of town if you're planning a 4th of July road trip today. The experts say this morning is the best time to travel because later today will turn into one of the busiest days on the road this summer. Michelle is out in Minnetonka this morning with what you should know before you hit the road.
If today is the day you want to get out of town for the holiday, right now is a pretty good time to leave. If not now, then just any time this morning. AAA actually gives a pretty large window for the worst travel times today, and that's going to be any time between noon and 9 p.m. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are thinking the same thing, that July 4th falls on a Friday this year. A chance for a long weekend could explain these record getaway numbers. AAA says to expect 72 million Americans to travel around the country for Independence Day. That's up by nearly 2 million travelers compared to last year, and a whopping 7 million more than in 2019. Now, AAA and Gas Buddy both share some good news that the price of summer holiday gas hasn't been this cheap since 2021. I just checked, and the nationwide average is about $3.17 a gallon. Back to you.
Michelle, thank you. We're also keeping a close eye on flights in and out of MSP this morning. Lots of green on the list right now, meaning most flights are on time with only a few delays and cancellations. Good news there. But over on the East Coast, severe weather has forced hundreds of delays and cancellations with millions under flooding alerts and severe weather risks. All of this leaving many travelers stranded during one of the busiest travel weeks of the summer.
It was delayed like 3 times.
And now it's just not happening.
No.
Frustrating?
Yes, very, because we were looking for other flights, but there's nothing out until July 2nd.
TSA expects to screen more than 18 million travelers this week. They advise flyers to get to the airport early and also be ready for possible delays. Also, Sunday will be a very heavy travel period at airports with people trying to get back home. A live look from our nation's capital this morning, where House Republicans are working against the clock. They're trying to pass President Trump's big, beautiful bill before Friday. Now, it's not guaranteed to pass, as the House needs to move forward with the exact same bill as the Senate did on yesterday. Alice Barr is in D.C. with details.
Hi there. President Trump is urging House Republicans to stay united behind the bill funding his biggest priorities, from mass deportations to extending the Trump tax cuts. But some House members aren't happy with changes made in the Senate that they now have to sign off on. This morning, the big bill back in the hands of the House, with the pressure on to get it to President Trump's desk by Friday.
I think it will be easier in the House than it was in the Senate.
To meet the timeline, the House can't make any changes to the Senate version, some members already raising objections, as Speaker Mike Johnson promises to pass the president's domestic policy agenda.
We're working through that, talking to all members and all caucuses and everybody else, but we remain optimistic we're going to land this plane.
Planes posing problems of their own, with stormy weather canceling flights across the country. Some House members hitting the road.
Let's go deliver on President Trump's agenda
to make it back to vote as soon as today.
We're going to drive overnight,
including Democrats united in trying to stop what they call
this one big ugly bill that will rip health care away from millions of Americans.
It all comes after the Senate narrowly passed the bill with a tie-breaking vote from Vice President J.D. Vance.
Vice President votes in the affirmative.
All Democrats and 3 Republicans voted no, including Senator Rand Paul, who criticized a carve-out softening Medicaid cuts in Alaska to win over Senator Lisa Murkowski.
to get the vote of the Alaska senator, billions and billions and billions more were added.
My response is, I have an obligation to the people of the state of Alaska. Do I like this bill? No, because I tried to take care of Alaska's interests.
The Medicaid cuts aimed at offsetting the bill's extended Trump tax cuts, plus no tax on tips and overtime, and funding for defense and deportations. Objections in the House are split, with some fiscal conservatives concerned the bill doesn't do enough to cover its costs. It's projected to add more than $3 trillion to the deficit, while moderates worry about the Senate version's deeper cuts to federal aid, with more than 11 million Americans expected to lose their health insurance. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
New developments this morning on South St. Paul Councilmember Pam Bakken's daycare license. It's now officially revoked after allegations a 3-year-old ate meth off of the floor there. The license was suspended in December when a boy tested positive for the drug after being picked up. In a letter addressed to Bakken, the Minnesota Department of Human Services said she failed to properly supervise the kids in her care and that she didn't submit a background check for someone in her home. In April, prosecutors said they won't file criminal charges. The 7-week search for 16-year-old Manny Collins has come to a devastating close. And now this morning, the investigation into his death is ramping up. Police say they're investigating his death as a homicide, but they haven't named any suspects. Jennifer Hoff heard from Manny's family and has the latest.
In this part of West St. Paul, people are particularly close.
Very close.
Just like Mary Berry and her great-grandson, Manny Collins.
Anything I needed done, he was willing to do it for me.
Making it all the more heartbreaking for her to hear the 16-year-old was found dead over the weekend after police say he'd been missing for nearly 2 months.
I didn't know I can holler that loud. I just hollered with disbelief.
All right, good morning.
At a news conference today, the Anoka County Sheriff announced crews found his body Saturday in an Elk River landfill they'd been searching since the beginning of June.
We were offered information that led to a video, and that video showed some evidence that would suggest the body might have made its way into a dumpster and into a garbage truck. So that's what led us.
Waste Management able to geo-track that trash that was dumped the day after Manny was reported missing, compacted in an area bigger than a football field. Searchers sifting through it for 10,000 hours, one rake at a time.
I knew something wasn't right, because he would at least call me or his mother.
Police say Manny's father is cooperating with the investigation that's still ongoing and wouldn't name the person of interest they do have. But for Barry,
he would be right here.
She's grateful for some closure about the great-grandson she'll now hold even closer.
I don't believe this. I just don't believe it.
You just feel so bad for her and that entire family. So right now it's unclear if or when someone could be charged in this case. The sheriff says he's still waiting on some forensic tests results and for the medical examiner to release Manny's cause of death. Manny's family says they are planning a candlelight vigil for him. This morning, we're following 2 high-profile cases happening in court today. First, breaking this morning in New York, the full verdict is in the trial of Sean Diddy Combs. After more than 13 hours of deliberation, the jury convicting Combs on a prostitution-related offense, but acquitted him of sex trafficking and racketeering, charges that could have put him behind bars for life. The mixed result could still lead to Combs being locked up in prison for up to a decade. And then at noon, the suspect accused of killing 4 Idaho college students will be back in a Boise courtroom, expected to plead guilty to the murders. That move could mean Bryan Kohberger may avoid the death penalty, something that's outraging the victims' families. A judge could still reject the deal. A Minnesota astronaut is heading to space. NASA just announced astronaut Neil Mennen will go on his first mission to the International Space Station, where he'll serve as a flight engineer. Now, he was born and raised in Minneapolis and is an emergency medicine physician, mechanical engineer, and colonel in the U.S. Space Force. Mennen will head to space in June 2026 and is expected to stay there for about 8 months. Parents, listen up here. You got another option to keep the kids and yourself cool this summer. In the last 24 hours, the Crystal Cove Aquatic Center opened back up after closing for renovations more than a year ago. Tuesday, people were invited to swim for free at the Aquatic Center's grand reopening. It was closed all last season as the city made updates, including new slides, jumping platforms, and a climbing wall. They also made parts of the pool shallower. Make sure you stick with us. More news and weather coming up after the break.